Today I will discuss a different topic. I will discuss today about the life cycle of the SARS-CoV-2 virus inside the body of the host. So we are all aware of the pandemic created by this virus. So in order to find the disease, find the cure for the disease, we must know the life cycle of the disease first. So starting with the structure of the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus have a genomic size of 27 to 32 kb. So it has a genomic size a bit large, and the length of the virus is 80 to 160 nanometer. It belongs to the group of Coronaviridae family, and this Coronaviridae family, the SARS-CoV-2 is of the order Nidovirales. So the group of the virus is Nidovirales, and from this Nidovirales the subgroup SARS-CoV-2 or the coronavirus is formed. So this SARS, why is the name of the virus SARS-CoV-2? Because this virus, whenever enters inside the body of the host, causes the SARS disease. What is SARS? SARS is the severe acute respiratory syndrome. So whenever the virus enters inside the body of the host, it causes this severe acute respiratory syndrome. So for this reason, the name of the virus is SARS-CoV-2. 2 because it is there was a previous virus which has caused the SARS disease in 2003. So that disease was caused by SARS-CoV virus, and because it is similar, this virus is similar to that virus in several respects. So the virus is named SARS-CoV-2 virus, and this is a virus. This is the causative agent of COVID-19 disease. So this is the introduction of the virus. Moving to the genomic material of the virus. So the genomic material of the virus is RNA, and the nature of the RNA is single-stranded positive sense. Single-stranded means it has only one strand, and positive sense means that it has the capability of readily performing translation. We know that there are two strands. One is in the 5' to 3' direction, and the other one is in the 3' to 5' direction. So from in the 5' to 3' strand has the codons for translation, so translation can happen readily. Whereas in the 3' to 5' strand, the translation cannot occur in 3' to 5' direction. So that strand first needs to be converted into the 5' to 3' strand or the complementary strand. Then the translation can occur. But this virus contains a 5' to 3' strand, and from this strand translation can occur readily. So this is the nature of the genomic material of the virus, and the viral RNA is basically divided into two parts. One is the 5' end and the other one is the 3' end. And from this 5' end, the two types of proteins are developed from the whole RNA of the virus. Suppose this is the RNA of the virus, this is the 5' end and this is the 3' end. From the 5' end, non-structural proteins are formed, and from the 3' end, structural proteins are formed. Now what are the structural proteins? Structural proteins are those which forms the structure of the virus. That is we know that the virus has a crown-like appearance and it has envelope. All viruses have envelope. It has capsid. Viruses have capsid. They have membranes, envelope, spike proteins which are present on the capsid, which are present on the envelope. So all these structures are formed by structural proteins. So there are four types of structural proteins in case of SARS-CoV-2. The first one is membrane glycoprotein. The second one is envelope. Third one is nucleocapsid protein, and the fourth one is the spike proteins. So these are the four structural proteins, and the non-structural proteins are those which helps in the translation and the replication event. So the replication and the translation cannot occur without the help of proteins. So these are the proteins. The non-structural proteins are the proteins which helps in this translation and replication event. So this is basic. So now focusing on the structure of the RNA of the virus. So the RNA has a 5' cap at the 5' end and a 3' poly A tail at the 3' ends. So we can see that this virus has similarity with eukaryotic mRNA. So in the extreme 5' end is the 5' cap, and in the 3' end there is poly A tail, and we have the 5' UTR and the 3' UTR. UTR are the untranslated regions. These are the regions which are not translated. So this is the structure of the RNA of the virus. Now this RNA contains 14 ORFs. What are ORFs? ORFs are the open reading frames. So these are the regions on the mRNA which are translated into proteins. So the viral RNA contains 14 ORFs, and from these ORFs 27 proteins are formed. So these 27 proteins include both structural and non-structural proteins. So this is all about the structure of the RNA of the virus, and now we will move to the sequence of the structure. We will see the details of the structure of the virus. Now we will look the sequence of the genes for the proteins which are present on the mRNA. So the mRNA or the RNA of the virus. So the sequence of the proteins, from the sequence of the genes from which the structural and non-structural proteins are formed, are arranged in a particular sequence from the 5' to 3' detection. So the mRNA has in the extreme 5' end there is a leader sequence. So this leader sequence is the sequence which is translated first. So the leader sequence is followed by the 5' UTR, and then is the replicase gene. So this replicase gene helps in the replication of the RNA. That means the replication means the positive sense RNA is replicated into negative sense RNA. So the replicase genes helps in the viral replication. Now the replicase gene is followed by spike protein, the gene for the spike protein, then the codon for the spike protein, then the envelope codon, then the membrane protein codon, and then the nucleocapsid codon, and then after this is the 3' UTR, and at the last is the poly A tail. So this is the sequence of the genes which are present in the mRNA, or which is present in the RNA of the virus. So this is basically the sequence. Now this replicase gene, which is the main gene which helps in the multiplication of the virus, is this replicase gene is translated from the ORF1, that is the first ORF. So this first ORF is the largest ORF of the among the 14 ORFs. This ORF1 is the largest. So this ORF is divided into two parts, ORF1A and ORF1B. So ORF1 is divided into two parts. One is ORF1A and ORF1B. So and the sequence of the ORF1A and ORF1B are slightly overlapping. So the proteins that is formed from ORF1A is a polyprotein, is named as polyprotein 1A, and the protein that is formed from ORF1B is named as polyprotein 1AB. So the protein, we can see that the protein that is translated from 1A is polyprotein 1A, but the ORF1B, which is just after the ORF1A, has a protein which has sequences of both 1A and 1B because it is overlapping. So, and this translation of this this ORF occurs by a ribosomal frame shifting event. So this can be a potent target for the antiviral therapy. So this is the most important part. And now this polyprotein, why it is named polyprotein? Because it is a composition of multiple proteins. Multiple proteins are linked here, and these proteins, when they are linked as a polyprotein, they have no function. For being functional, this polyprotein must be cleaved and individual proteins will be generated. And all these proteins are non-structural proteins because they are translated from the 5' end. So this is the 5' end. Up to this point it is the 5' end, and after this is the 3' region, and this is the 5' region. So the proteins that are formed are non-structural proteins. So polyprotein 1A means it is also a big protein, but the polyprotein 1AB, which has a sequence of both 1A and 1B, is much larger. So this protein needs to be cleaved before the activation of the proteins. So polyprotein 1AB is cleaved by a viral protease. Two types of viral proteases are involved in the cleavage of the polyprotein 1AB. And after the cleavage of this polyprotein, 1 to 16 non-structural proteins are generated. That means 17 non-structural proteins are generated by the cleavage of this polyprotein 1AB. And we can imagine how much larger is that, how much large is the polyprotein 1AB. So after this proteolytic cleavage, 17 proteins are generated. So the protease which cleaves this large protein into small proteins are named as these 3 chymotrypsin-like protease. One is 3 chymotrypsin-like protease and the other one is papain-like protease. So these two types of protease are very important in the infection cycle of the virus. So these two protease can also be the target of antiviral therapy. So these are I have mentioned about the two targets which can be focused as in therapeutic purpose. So now moving to the next part. Now I will talk about the life cycle of the virus inside the host cell. So how the virus enters the host cell and what happens after that, how the virus replicates itself. So in this first the virus binds to a receptor on the host cell. So host cell has specific receptor for the virus. Host cell, there are host cells are, we know that cells are enclosed by cell membranes. So in the cell membranes there are receptors. So in case of humans, the receptor is ACE2 receptor, ACE2 receptor, this one. So this is the full form is angiotensin converting enzyme 2. So it is basically an enzyme which converts a protein angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2, and this receptor and this angiotensin protein is involved in the controlling the blood pressure of the host. So in humans, this angiotensin converting enzyme 2 is helpful for controlling the blood pressure of the humans. So the virus will bind to the receptor, and by binding to the receptor it will enter the host cell. So the process is called receptor mediated endocytosis, because here the virus first binds with the receptor and then the internalization of the virus is occurring inside the host cell. So the virus first binds with the ACE2 receptor with the help of spike proteins. We know that the virus has spikes on its surface. So it is a viral spike. The structure of the virus is like this one. This is spike protein, which is composed of S protein. So this S protein is very, very helpful for the attachment of the virus to these ACE2 receptors. So this is also a very, very important target for therapeutic purpose, to inhibit the entry of the virus inside the host cell. So we should know how the event occurs. So this S protein first binds with the S protein has two components. One is S1 and the other one is S2. So these two components makes up the S protein. So this S protein, the S1 component of S protein is involved in recognition of the receptor on the host cell. So for binding to the receptor, the virus first should recognize the receptor, that this is the receptor we would enter. So this recognition event is performed by the S1. And what the S2 does, after recognition, this S2 is initially inactive. And once the S1 is bound with the receptor on the host cell, a host cell protease cleaves this S protein into these two parts. After binding, the S protein first binds with the surface of the with the receptor on the host cell, and after binding, there is a protease on the host cell which cleaves the S protein into the two components, that is S1 and S2. After binding with the host cell receptor, the protease present on the host cell cleaves the S protein into its two components. The S1 component was responsible for recognizing the receptor, and now previously this S2 protein was inactive, but after cleavage this S2 protein becomes activated. Now what does this after activation? So S2, after being activated, this S2 protein catalyzes the fusion of the viral envelope with the host cell membrane. So the fusion process, that is the receptor mediated endocytosis, this process occurs by the fusion of the two membrane proteins. One is the viral membrane and the other one is the host cell membrane. So for the fusion protein, this S2 protein is very, very important. So these two proteins may be a target for therapeutic purpose. So this is a very important target which will, if we target these proteins, then the virus will cannot enter the host cell. So this is how it occurs. Now once the fusion of the host cell and the viral envelope has occurred, now the virus will be internalized. So the virus enters inside the host cell. Now after the entry into the host cell, the virus will disassemble. That means it will release its viral RNA, that is genomic RNA is released inside the cytoplasm of the host cell. So the virus disassembles itself into the cytosol of the host cell, and after this the translation of the viral mRNA occurs. Now this translation, after this translation, this is the two rounds of translation occurs in virus. In the first translation, which occurs readily after the virus entry inside the host cell, the non-structural proteins are formed. So I have already said that the virus has positive sense RNA. So once it enters the host cell and released into the cytosol, the translation occurs rapidly, and in this round of translation, non-structural proteins are formed, and that is in non-structural proteins 1 to 16 are formed. So these proteins are very important for the viral replication, as well as we will see that how these NSPs function in the virus life cycle. So these NSPs, some NSPs 1 to 16 are formed. So some of these NSPs form a vesicular envelope, forms a double membrane envelope. So this membrane is hijacked from the host cell membrane. So the virus, the non-structural proteins of the virus hijacks a host cell membrane and encloses the viral RNA by the double membrane structure. So what is the goal? Why does it does so? Why do the non-structural proteins does this thing? So it wants to protect the viral RNA from the host immunity. So we can imagine that if the viral RNA is present in the host cell cytoplasm, so there is host immunity. Host immune system can easily recognize the viral RNA and it will degrade the RNA. So to protect the viral RNA from degradation, the virus tries to protect the RNA. So this for protecting the RNA, these non-structural proteins are formed, and these non-structural proteins forms a double membrane envelope, and within this envelope the RNA is kept in a protected environment, and in this region and inside the double layered envelope the RNA replication occurs. That is, the RNA multiplication occurs within this envelope. So it can easily avoid the host immune system. So this is why the non-structural proteins are important, and also the non-structural proteins are important for the replication of the virus, because these non-structural proteins encodes the viral replicase, that is the RNA dependent RNA polymerase, so which is the key enzyme for the replication of the virus. So this RNA dependent RNA polymerase is a non-structural protein. So this is the RNA dependent RNA polymerase is also a target for the antiviral therapy. So this is how the virus replication occurs. Now what happens inside the double membrane envelope, the viral replication is occurring, and the structural protein should also form. So what happens after the transcription is done, after the replication of the virus is done, the RNA of the viral RNA will then migrate to the endoplasmic reticulum, and in this endoplasmic reticulum another round of translation will occur, and in this round of translation the structural proteins will be formed, and these structural proteins will include the membrane proteins, the spike proteins, the nucleocapsid proteins, the envelope proteins. All these 4 types of proteins will be made in the second round of translation. So once these proteins are made, they will be assembled, these structural proteins plus the viral RNA, one of the single stranded plus positive sense viral RNA, both of them will be packaged inside a viral envelope, and then exocytosis will occur. That is, the viral particle, the complete viral particle will move outside the host cell, and this virus particle will then infect another adjacent cell, and the same process will repeat. So this is how the virus infects our cell, and the replication cycle occurs in this way. So first the virus enters the host cell by binding to the receptor by endocytosis, and then the viral RNA is released into the cytosol. Translation round 1 occurs, in which non-structural proteins are formed. Then non-structural protein forms a double layered envelope around the viral RNA, and the viral RNA is protected, and in this envelope the viral RNA is replicated. Large amount of viral RNA are formed, and once the RNAs are formed, some of the RNAs will migrate into the endoplasmic reticulum and will form the structural proteins. That in the translation round 2. So after the formation of the structural proteins, these RNAs will these structural proteins and one strand of RNA, that is one strand of positive and single stranded RNA will be packaged inside a virion, and then the virus will be released from the host cell by the process of exocytosis. And the same and then after release, the virus can also attack the adjacent cells and the same replication cycle will continue. So this is how the virus infects the host cell. And this ACE2 receptor, that is a receptor on the host cell receptor, is present on different organs. As we see that this SARS-CoV-2 virus causes the severe acute respiratory syndrome. So this happens when the virus infects the lungs. The lungs have receptors for the virus entry. So these ACE2 receptors are present in lungs, in kidneys, in gastrointestinal tracts. So these are the organs in the heart. So in these organs the ACE2 receptors are present, and so all these organs are susceptible to virus pathogenicity. So this is how the virus enters our body and creates pathogenicity. So this is all about the virus life cycle. And in order to design any therapeutic drug, we need to understand the life cycle. That is why I thought to explain this mechanism of the virus life cycle and how the virus enters our body and how it replicates inside our body, what events does it does. And this is all about today, and in the next class I will continue about immunology. Thank you.